thanks everybody. It's good to be back. Hi Steve, hi John. So the Center for Online Learning, Research and Service, it's COLRS. We know we need to buy a vowel. We apologize. Emily reminds us all the time we've misspelled it, but it's okay. It's okay.
We're version 2.0.
That's right, version 2.0. So we focus on online learning, and we do that through working with faculty. We are faculty, we work with faculty, and we focus on faculty development. We have a strong component of research, and our research is really bolstered by our Faculty Fellows program. Lane has been a Faculty Fellow for 2 years with Colors, and we choose 4 faculty members a year to join the center and do research in the area of teaching and learning, and with a specific focus in either online, blended, flipped, use of different types of technology and techniques in learning. And then finally we do service, and that's what we're doing here today. We do service in Illinois, a lot of it. We do service nationally. Ray Schroeder, who is our Associate Director, is currently at Boston College doing the same thing that we're doing here today. And we do service internationally. In July, I'll go to Mexico City and work with a school in Mexico City. And so we do a lot of work in our service area. We also do work in service with areas like the Illinois Hospice Association. Emily did a project with the Illinois Department of Transportation. You all know those flaggers that stand on the side of the road? There's actually quite a bit to learn before you can do that. Has anybody ever done that job? No? Yeah, you have, Pete. All right, good for you. Did you do a training course? No, they just made you out of the flag. You were dangerous.
Stay out of the way.
Stay out of the way. So Emily actually helped them build online training so that now they can do around the state. No matter where you're located, you can do your training online.
And for free, I cruise around the highway and just like, no, your arm is not high enough.
So now Emily knows all about how to be a flagger. So, so my appointment is in our educational leadership department, and I'm an associate research professor in educational leadership, where I teach primarily in our Master of Arts in Master of Education. We just changed the title of the program. Master of Education and Teaching English as a Second Language in an Assessment. Emily, would you like to tell a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I think in addition to what we were introduced with, I think the important thing for our group is that we've all been students in the online classroom as well, and if you haven't been able to take a course online and you're teaching online, I would highly recommend it. I think since you're a community college, you can get a discount taking the Illinois Online Network workshops, and that's like just 8 weeks and really quick and an easy way to get a feeling of what it's like to be a student. My background is in English, but I'm a technology nerd. It's really what I love to mess with and play with and program. And so that's a little bit about me.
Michelle?
Not much extra beyond how we were introduced, but one thing that hasn't been pointed out yet is that we all have community college experience in one way or the other as well. I used to be in the Center for Business and Industry at Lake Lane College as a computer trainer, as well as in the dean's office and as an adjunct business instructor. Vicki, of course, was here for a while. And
I was at Illinois Central College in their online learning support unit as well.
And I taught a class at Harper Community College up in Chicago.
Lane, you want to say any more about your research area?
Yeah, so, right, so I came into this as a chemistry professor, so I'm probably not as good with all of the online stuff. I'm learning though. And I do a lot of education research now. I actually closed my wet lab and I'm focusing completely on education research. The stuff that I'm focusing on, I started with a lot of flipped teaching stuff, and so I'm trying to figure out how do I incorporate technology into my class to make class time an active learning session and make that work better. I also do a couple of things with an online class that I teach, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I think, with the discussion this afternoon, with having my students work in groups and create videos online, create infographics for the online class. And then I've got a new project that I'm just starting this summer where I'm going to be working with somebody from Royal University in Calgary, and his students and my students are both taking organic chemistry, and they're going to Skype together and interact with each other from Canada and here about the language of organic chemistry. So Yeah, I do a lot of different things that incorporate technology, and how can you best use technology. For a lot of years I didn't use any technology in my class because I tried it and it didn't work very well and I didn't like it. And so now I'm always trying to figure out how can I use it for a way that's going to help our students learn more.
Lane didn't mention it, but he's also a distinguished Apple educator. And
Yeah, I was
so-
selected last year as the Apple Distinguished Educator, which is an amazing group of people. The coolest thing about that to me is that it has allowed me to interact with a bunch of K-12 teachers. And one of the things that I realized as a PhD organic chemist, how many teaching courses I've taken. I don't know if you guys know the number of that. To get a PhD in organic chemistry, that would be 0. So when I get to work with science teachers, I learn so much from them because they actually have studied how to teach people, and I love that conversation. That's one of the things that I think that sometimes we get wrong in higher ed, that we think, boy, we must have all the answers because we're the PhDs and we're the higher ed people. And I've got a lot to learn, and it's fantastic working with them. And I get very excited about the kinds of things that we get to do. So I'm actually presenting at ISTE, International Society for Technology and Education, with a middle school teacher from California and a high school teacher from Texas, and I, about how we have our students create videos to learn and explain science.
So do you have any questions for us about anything that we've shared with you at this point? Well, let's get started. So we at Colors use websites, we use Google Sites to do all of our presentations. We present PowerPointlessly because we kind of think PowerPoint is pointless because it is static, and once you create it, it lives only where you created it. Now, yeah, there are some apps, somebody agrees with us. There are some apps that you can use that you can put it on SlideShare and you can do those kinds of things. But we find a website is a lot better idea for our students and for the folks that we present with, because then if we find a really cool article tomorrow that has something to do with what we said today, we can jump back in there, add that article for you guys, and then you have that new research too right away. So that's kind of what we do, and this is the website right here, go.uis.edu/Kaskaskia, and if you want to pull it up on your device, here's what we believe about learning. We like you to be looking down at your device and being present with the content that we're working with. And we're going to ask you a whole lot of questions. And typically, if this was a typical classroom for me, and I had a typical layout of students, I would be back there in the back of the room, somewhere around where Greg is, because I always teach from the back of the room, so I can also see what my students are seeing on their screens. And it's really important that your students are engaged, but they are most likely to be engaged today as we're talking about our Generation Z students coming in. Also, you have the millennials, you have the Generation Y, you have some baby boomers coming back to school. You have to be able to engage all those age groups. And one way to do that is to utilize information on a website where they can interact and pull in information. Part of that is because of, okay, where did you put it? Right there. All right. Part of that is because of this concept. Can you see that? No, we don't have, can you shoot it? Because we have often talked about pedagogy. Who knows what pedagogy is? Okay, somebody give me a definition. I know Aaron will know. Aaron, what's pedagogy?
The idea, talking about, thinking about how we learn.
Yeah, so it's how we learn. And typically we think about pedagogy as being something especially that we work with children on. And children learn through pedagogical techniques. All right, what's andragogy? Who knows what andragogy is? Anybody? Anybody heard about it? Aaron?
I've heard of it.
Okay.
I'm just reading about those last two concepts, but I don't feel like I can give you a good definition.
All right, well, thank you for having read about it. Andragogy is the idea of working with adults. This is adult learning. So adults learn because they have a specific need, a specific motivator, a specific goal. They tend to learn something because it affects a particular portion of their lives. And hudagogy is self-determined learning. Again, building on that concept of andragogy, I want to learn something because I need to know it for some reason, but I'm determining how I learn it. And so heutagogy is the concept of my taking control of my own learning. What has caused heutagogy to become a mobile force in our country? Okay, how many of you have a cell phone? I know somebody up here does, I heard it. Oh, it's John's, okay. All right, I want you to pull it out. Pull out your cell phones. How many times do you start a class where you ask your students to pull out their cell phones? You're laughing. Okay, a few times? Yeah? Okay, good, good. And what do you have them do with their cell phones when they get them pulled out?
Look up information.
Look up information? Aaron?
Yeah, I use it, I'm trying to do it where they're self-directed, so teaching them that the content is everywhere and not just in that classroom.
Okay, content is everywhere. Lane, tell your story about Google, your student.
Oh, about wine stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a student just this semester saying, I need more practice problems on nuclear chemistry. I don't understand it well enough. And what am I supposed to do? That's what they came to me and said. I went practice problems, nuclear chemistry into Google and came up with like 50 pages of things that they could try. And I clicked through the first 5 of them and said, well, these 3 have answers if you click on them. I mean, it's really, really easy to find stuff that you need to learn.
So that is a heutagogical approach. All right, I want you to work with the person next to you. I want you to determine something you're going to look up on your phone. You determine what that is, and the two of you find something. Okay, go.
When you drive, when I was in class, yeah, we learned everything that to do with
Are you really?
numbers and automotive, so I say, simple what's our tire? Do you know what's our tire?
Yeah, exactly.
3 seconds tires. Yeah, what's up? Google Jesus, I have. Within your makeup,
All right, let's get back together. Everybody up here? Okay, so who would like to share? Do we have a team that wants to share? Steve Jordan, back there. You guys are giggling. What'd you look up? Antique farm equipment. And what did you learn? Oh, well. Did you learn anything else? Okay. Yes. Oh, you found something. Yes.
You
fieldlevel.com.
gotta get yours.
It's a recruiting tool that I ask different coaches
You have the right size tire.
about a recruit or something and get information from them before I call.
Oh, okay, great. So that's a really good one
Yeah.
for the IHSA. Very good, very good. Who else? Who else found something? What'd you guys find?
Well, I teach automotive, and I asked him what car he drives, and make sure he's got the right size tires on it. He just Googled his year, make, and model, and asked tire size.
And he found it.
Comes right up.
And it comes right up. So you can see how you could start a class with this type of a heutagogical approach. It can be, you know, whatever you're teaching, automotive. So what is a subject that you might teach one day?
Well, tires.
Tires. So we're going to talk about tires, and so the first thing, everybody could look up something, what they want to know about tires,
Right.
and find out something about tires. Whatever your subject is, whether it's respiratory therapy, sociology, education, it really doesn't matter. There is something out there that you could pique the interest of your student, and that's a heutagogical approach. So the idea is you let them use the cell phone, And then you bring everybody back together, just like we just did. All right, so there are, on this particular piece, this is a model of how to use a tool or an app with your students. And I want to just point this out because you always ask them to consider the tool. How will the tool enhance what they're learning? How will the tool enhance what you're teaching? Does it review or revisit the learning objectives? Anytime we're going to use a piece of technology in a class, it really doesn't matter what it is nothing more than a piece of chalk. And I say that because it doesn't matter whether you have whiteboards or chalkboards, it's a tool, right? So are all of our apps, so are our phones, so are our computers, some other things that we have up here to share with you. They are all tools. So we need to say which tool is going to meet our learning objective. The learning objective is what's the most important. What do we want to teach? And then assessing how can we teach it. So we identify the content the student needs to learn, we assess that particular tool or application, and then we select the best implement for the job. So has anybody in here ever tried to use a Phillips screwdriver to take out a screw that has a straight head, or vice versa? What happens when you use the wrong tool for the job? You ruin your butter knife. Okay, there you go. I like that answer. All right. So if you use the wrong tool, sometimes you can get the job done, but it can be pretty frustrating because your best butter knife's now ruined. Or you ruin the screw head, right? All right, now let's think about that in terms of our students. What did we do if we used the wrong tool? Well, we just maybe killed their creative process in actually becoming interested in our subject matter. So I'll pick on John Orlett here because John actually, I had to take an English class one time and took it with John, and he did this great job. Don't get embarrassed. He didn't know I was going to say this. Great job of leading this really creative discussion about Frankenstein. And I still remember that as being a really important part of people's learning because he used all the right questions as his tool to get students to think about that work. Now, how many times is your tool a set of questions? It doesn't have anything to do with technology. But sometimes it's a video. And sometimes it's a butter knife. So what we use is really important, and just using the shiny object that is out there will never get us to the place we want to be, which is for our students to meet those learning objectives. There is a whole lot of stuff on this website. So I am not going to go through everything, but I do want to tell you that there are some really good evaluation forms on here for iPad apps and for ways to evaluate different types of technology. So over the summer, as you're thinking about your fall classes and you're thinking about what you might be able to use in your classes, go through this website that we've shared with you that will remain there and look at that evaluation and evaluate what you think might be a cool thing to use to engage your students more effectively. The most important tools will be those that lead you to a student-centric place. The student at the center. How many of you have heard of universal design? Anybody? So just our education person. So universal design is a whole workshop in and of itself, and probably one that might be a good fall endeavor for you all. But universal design helps you become very student-centric as you plan your courses. It allows you to rethink how you are presenting all your material, whether it's face-to-face or online. And especially in an online environment, we're able to use universal design to hit those people on the fringes that may need a little help with the way that they read, or a little help with the way that they're looking at presentations, a little help maybe with the colors of a particular presentation. So universal design, there's lots and lots of materials out there on it. I'm sure if you can't find something, we'd be happy to help you, but you've got a good resource in Erin Landers. Just email Erin and she can share some of her material with you as well. Okay, how many of you know Bloom's taxonomy? Everybody's probably heard of that one, right? Okay, so I would just remind you that when you're thinking about Bloom's taxonomy, that you always try to get up here to the creating part. Yes, we need to remember things, and our students need to memorize certain facts and figures, and we need to be able to tell somebody the language of what we're studying. But remember, we can find almost every fact and figure, right? So if there's not a reason to memorize it, move on up and make sure that people can understand, that they have a way to apply, that they can analyze. How many of you work in disciplines where analysis of data is getting more and more critical? Well, actually, I would say everybody in here, because not only is it in the individual disciplines you teach in, but in higher education, this analysis is extremely important. And so as you think about that concept, think about how you're teaching your students analysis of information as they move forward in learning. And then creating. That creating piece is just so critical because students need to be able to take the information that you have shared and create new knowledge with that. We have a pedagogy wheel that is really small here, but you can pull it up yourself. But the really fun thing about this is that you can use this for Bloom's taxonomy, and it gives you all of the action words to tie into your syllabus. So as you're writing your learning objectives, take a look at your current syllabus and see where the words that you've used in your syllabus, where do they fall? And when most of the time when faculty do this, they fall right up here in remember and understand, and they use very few objectives for the rest of this. Then we have activities. This will help you build your activities in your syllabus that will actually correspond with each of these. And then the last layer is iPad apps. Apps that you can have your students use that actually help build on these activities. All right, so that is really in a nutshell like 2.5 years of studying pedagogy on andragogy and hudagogy, and you've got it all right here. But there's lots for you to dig into in the website. But now we're going to do the really fun stuff. Who's going to start? Michelle?
All right, so if you go on our site and click on the next area, the apps and enhancing student engagement, we're going to go through a few of the apps that we like to recommend to our faculty members. At the top here, you'll see several sites that take you to a whole bunch of listings of apps. So we'll just leave that there for you to look at when you have a chance. But we're going to just jump right into some of the specific ones we want to talk about today. The first one we're going to talk about today is Today's Meet. Has anyone in here used Today's Meet in the class before? All right, good. This will be a fun chance for you to take advantage of it today. So Today's Meet is great for online classes as well as your face-to-face classes. And then we actually created a Today's Meet for us here today. It's todaysmeet.com/Kaskaskia. And it's basically a collaboration site that exists on the web that we can communicate like a back channel with our students to each other, to us as the faculty member. We can have a lot of various activities take place on Today's Meet too. So if we can go ahead and open Today's Meet up. And you will see here that we have just a whiteboard area here and an ability to join the whiteboard and then talk. So let's just talk about what we are planning on doing this evening. My name's Michelle. I'm going to join, and I'm going to go to a baseball game with my sons. All right, and all your students can participate in something like this. If you want to ask your students an example of, say, teach marketing, a good customer service interaction, or a bad marketing message. All of your students in your class can participate together in real time with this app, and it gives everyone a chance to share their opinion. If you're like my students, many times when I have a face-to-face class, I'll have 1 or 2 students answer every question, and you have a few students that are in the back that never say anything the entire semester. This is your chance to get them to be engaged with the material in your face-to-face setting. And what we're going to do, we're going to use this throughout the whole day this morning. We're going to leave this active, but we want you to ask me questions, and Vicki and Lane and Emily. And we're going to use this as a back channel tool. So if you have a question, if there's a muddy point, or if there's a question you want to ask but you don't want to interrupt us, use this, and we'll be up here and we can engage with you and answer those questions, and we have prizes for whoever's the most active. So we encourage you to continue. Whoever's a White Sox fan, assuming it's White Sox, not Red Sox. All right, you're the other person in Illinois who likes the White Sox. Nice to meet you. We'll use this, so please ask us questions throughout. But again, it's really simple to set up. It's free. It lasts for a month. You can grab the transcript afterwards if you want to keep track of who all your students ask questions and deal with the questions the next class session. It's a great tool. Our next tool is Poll Everywhere, which is another fun one to use in both face-to-face and online classes. It allows you to create a poll for your students. They can answer on a laptop, a computer lab, their mobile device, whatever it is. And if Emily can help me out, we'll go ahead and create a poll. You can do it on the fly. It takes hardly any time at all. You can go ahead and ask, who's your favorite baseball team? Since I know someone else will help me out here with the Sox. And you can set up multiple choice. You can do open-ended if you want. There's other types of questions as well. You hit create. And it's that simple. The only other thing we have to do is make it active, which is that button right there, Emily. And now we have an active poll. Our students can either go to that website that's there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's pollev.com/secret-chasm219. Or they can text that number. And anyone who wants to engage with the question, it'll pop up as soon as they do. Are you helping us out, Vicki?
I'm trying.
All right.
Yeah.
And it updates in real time, so we'll see the chart as we start getting some answers. So someone answered Cardinals, that's Vicki. And as all of our students engage, we can have their answers pop up. If we're doing a multiple choice poll, it'll have the chart, the bar chart, and we'll see the numbers fluctuate as more people answer the questions. So again, a great way to quiz your students in the middle of class. If you want to see if they understand something that you just talked about. It's a good way to brainstorm ideas if you want all the students to contribute to something. And it can be anonymous. So it's a great way for you to get feedback as well if you want feedback from your students anonymously, or if they want to ask you questions but you think they might be afraid to ask you directly or via email.
Michelle?
Yes.
Steve Normansell, years ago, did a very good faculty development piece on the muddiest point. And many faculty use Poll Everywhere with the muddiest point technique. So if you're still using that, Poll Everywhere is a great way to do that.
So, and
I really love it for brainstorming. Oh, sorry. For idea brainstorming in English classrooms, it's really great for idea generation.
And a related one, we don't have it on there, but I have it on my iPad. I use in my class is Socrative, and I think we're going to add a link to it.
It's there.
Oh, we have it now. Okay. And the difference between Socrative and Poll Everywhere is with Socrative, one of the things that you also can get, you can't see it very well in here, you get an Excel spreadsheet of the students' responses. So I use it in grading. I use it in a daily quiz and also for attendance. You can use it for that because everybody that took it was attending, sort of. They can take it from other places, which I've noticed happens occasionally. Like, hey, you weren't in class today, but you took the quiz. Interesting. And you can get with Poll Everywhere, but in Poll Everywhere you have to pay to be able to get reports. Socrative is free. They're both free to use, but Socrative is free to get the reports. So I get that coming into my email every day.
excellent. Yeah, another tool that's similar, I haven't used it enough, but if you like the idea of this, but you want something that kind of blends better with the PowerPoint that you might use in your classroom, is Zeetings.com. So it's like meetings, but with a Z. It'll allow you to have your PowerPoint slides, and then you'll have a slide where you can have this type of polling activity take place. and then move on to your next slide. And it's also one where you can push it out to your students so they can be on the same slide that you are on up here, and as you move forward, their slide will move forward on their laptop or on the smartphone that they're using. All right, what's next, Emily? Remind. Anyone here use Remind 101? Or it used to be 101, but now it's Remind. All right. Do you use it for your classes that you teach or as a end user?
We use it for, well, I have both. My son's school uses it, but we use it now with our radiology students.
Excellent. That's what we see. A lot of K-12 uses it. My son's schools use it. Would you like to share a little bit about?
Well, and I talked about it a little bit before you guys got here.
Oh, excellent.
Too. No, I like it because they can send out like to the whole school, or you can join just like a class. Like there's one for the track team, one for basketball team. I like using it with our students now because we made a class for like class of 2016, class of 2017, and you can join their class. So you can send out a message to the whole group saying, don't forget this, or you can't class canceled, whatever. But you can also individual message them. So it's like a text back and forth, except they don't have to have your personal cell phone.
That's the brilliant part of it, that line right there. If you're a faculty member, you can send out messages to all of your students. They will never know what your phone number is.
Yeah.
So if you made that mistake before, giving out your phone number, personal phone number, and then been harassed by students all the time until the semester ends, you can avoid that because that masks the phone numbers. You don't know your student's number either. So it helps protect their privacy as well. So it's a great way to either do those type of announcements to the class, but also you can prepare for class. Right before the class starts, send out a Remind 101 and ask them a question that you're going to engage in today so they can start thinking about that question before they even get to your class. So you can use it multiple purposes, but I think the more logistical type of issues that something's canceled or you need to move locations or snow today, which
Nobody checks their email.
right, that's where it's most beneficial. All right, next one we have for you, Wordle. This is one example of a word cloud. There's multiple types of word clouds that are available online. There's lots of interesting ways that you can use word clouds in your classroom. It's an easy tool. It runs on Java, so sometimes it doesn't work when we demonstrate it, depending on what software is on the computer. But you can take a paragraph of content, put it into Wordle, press a button, and it'll create one of these visual word clouds that you're familiar with, I'm sure, by seeing them everywhere. But you can use these in your class for many things, and there's some brilliant examples of how faculty members have used them. One, yes?
I was just going to say, I used them and gave them as presents for all our faculty. I typed all the words and then put it on a canvas and made a frame.
Oh, great idea.
Pinterest 101.
Excellent. Excellent. Some other uses that we've seen, your syllabus at the beginning of the semester, all those learning objectives that you have, put it into this so that way your students can get a visual idea of what your class is about on day one. The most prominent words become the larger ones in the word cloud, ones that are repeated a lot. Other examples, one of the ones that I like is if you teach a nutrition class, have your students keep a food diary for a week and then have them plug that content into a Wordle to see what they ate the most. And when you see Pop-Tarts as the #1 thing, then you might need to elaborate on why that might not be the best idea. Political speeches is another great example. Take two different speeches, run them through to see how one candidate's presidential speech compares to another candidate's presidential speech, and then start a dialogue with your students on that. Creative writing example. You as a faculty member can put in a whole bunch of words, create this word cloud, and then ask your students to create an essay using those words or a story using those words. So give them something to start with. Lane has an example.
Another one that actually I've used before is when I survey my students a lot because I'm doing education research. And so like when you are analyzing survey responses, it's fun to drop that into a word cloud that you can quickly see what's popping up a lot. What are the same common responses that they have. So if you're doing survey stuff with students at all.
Excellent.
It'd be a really fun way to let them see what their responses were anonymously and quickly.
Yeah.
Because they always want to know. It was fun. It's like, well, what did everybody think about that?
Excellent. All right. What's our next tool?
Google Voice.
Google Voice. I'll let Emily talk about this one.
So this goes in the vein of Remind. So Google Voice, how many of you have used it? Anybody? I love Google products. They're easy to use, one account, lots of options. Google Voice will let you sign up for a phone number. That is not your cell phone number, not your home phone number, but you can connect both of those to, numbers to your Google number. So you can give out your Google number, people can call that, you can have it ring on all of your phones, just one phone. You can screen based on what numbers are. If you've entered a call list, you can make sure your mom's calls always go to your cell phone, but maybe your grandma's go to your home phone, whatever you want to do. But what I really love about it is the anonymized number to send out and give to your students so they can still text your cell phone, because maybe you carry that with you all the time, but you aren't in your Remind app all the time. Another really great thing is that it'll let you have and archive all of your voicemails, which is kind of an interesting thing to do. I had a friend who did that with hers, and a family member passed away, and she had all of this stuff. But it's also a great way to archive student connections to you as well. If they call complaining about something, asking about something, it's a way to document that. And what I like to do is use the Google Voice number in Remind, and then I get the benefits of all of it in one place. So it's super easy to sign up if you wanted to. It is free, and then there is, well, I'm not going to do that to this person, so, but it is free for you to get in there and do that, and you can create a little widget that you can embed in Blackboard if you want to, and then people can click on it to call you, voice over IP. So if they don't have a cell phone, if they don't have something else, but they have internet access at the library or something, then they could contact you. So, Show Me is another one of my favorite apps that we've been using for a long time. Maybe 08, I think that's when I remember using that first. But we have a psychology professor, and Dr. Yoder was one of the first people I talked into using this in his classes, and he used it to explain concepts and data to his students. And what this app does, I've got it on here, so we'll pass it around so you guys can play with it. But it's just a really simple interface. It is a whiteboard app. It lets you import pictures, it lets you choose a color, you can draw on it, you can write on it. When you press the record button, you talk and you write, and it records it all, and it creates a little video for your students. So you guys can pass that around and play with it if you want. It's a really fun tool to show, to be able to do demonstrations with, yes?
Is that similar to Camtasia?
It is very much like that, except that it's not capturing everything on your iPad. So like on Camtasia on your desktop, for instance, you'd be able to go to a website, go into Blackboard and capture all of that. Show Me is just capturing whatever's on the whiteboard that you bring into the little app on your iPad. But it does the voiceover with the images. It's very, very good analogy. I just wanted to play a little sample so you can.
Chapter 14 in our textbook covers self-confidence. The particular topic for this mini lecture is understanding how expectations influence performance.
So when Marcel started doing this, he used his own handwriting, he did these things. People do fancier things where they bring in images. You can import PowerPoint slides that you've saved if you want to like write on and annotate them, or write out an equation and then just write on the slide to solve it is another way that I've seen people use it really well. So
first, we need to decide what we're talking about when we talk about self-confidence.
But you can hear his voice was picking up pretty well. It's pretty high quality. And as you're playing with the iPad app moving around, it's really easy to use. And Lane has a similar tool since we're together,
Yeah.
if you want to.
So the one that I use is almost the same. It's Explain Everything, and I have it up there, and I have it on my iPad. There's several things that I like about Explain Everything. I use it all the time now. When I first started recording my lectures for flipped class, I had, let's see, a Wacom Bamboo tablet that I then linked to my computer, and then I had software on my computer that would screen capture it. Then I would take that into Camtasia Studio, and then I would edit it. And now I do all that on Explain Everything with this one thing. That's all I have to carry around, and I can record it anywhere. I also have my students do it, okay? And so a couple things that are cool with it is that, of course, you know, here's, I don't have it up on there, but I have an image.
So hydride is a HYS.
Oh, this is me doing it. And just drawing. So I brought in an image from ChemDraw that we drew, and then you're drawing out chemical reactions. And each time you want to start a new page, each page records separately and can be edited separately. But the very best thing about Explain Everything that no one else has is that it has laser pointers. But one of the laser pointers is a lightsaber. My students love the lightsaber. And every time you start it, it makes the lightsaber starting sound. And there's a great story from that. The guy that created Explain Everything, Rashawn Richards, he's another Apple Distinguished Educator. I got to meet him when I went to our institute last summer. The reason that the lightsaber is in there is because of a little boy. And this teacher was trying to teach him something. He's like, yeah, this sucks, I don't want to do this. And he said, you know what would make this cool? This fat lightsaber. So they sent a letter to Rashawn, and a month later, he had made lightsabers for this. Well, they had a video of when they showed the boy for the first time, so they had there's 2 pictures on there. And here was Darth Vader, and he has a lightsaber. And here was Obi-Wan Kenobi, and uh-oh, he doesn't have a lightsaber. And then she would press on it, and the lightsaber comes up, and the little boy goes, the teacher said it changed the boy's life. Like, that boy's so excited about learning. Like, one tiny little thing could change everything for him and make it about learning. Anyhow, but it's super easy to use. And so, like I said, I have my students create videos in my class. And I think I might talk about it a little more later. I don't remember what all is on our topics. But they use primarily Explain Everything. Because organic chemistry, which is what I teach, there's a lot of drawing that goes on. There's some other apps that I have them use too, but it's so nice for that because it's really easy. You can change colors and you can see it, whatever. You can draw things on there while it's not recording, or you can record and then it's actually recording as you draw things out, just like you saw with Dr. Yoder's thing. So.
Yeah, you did that. Do you want to talk about Notability, or you want me to do?
Yeah. And Notability is a different kind of whiteboarding app. So really all Notability is it's something to draw on. And let's see if I have something up here with Notability on it. Let me explain everything. I have too many apps open. This is what I tell my students all the time, like how valuable my iPad is, because every time I start class, I have to close like 25 different apps. Anyhow, I'll just talk about it. The great thing about Notability, the way I use it, so when I'm teaching, usually I don't write on the board anymore very much. I'm usually writing on my iPad and using screens for the students. And so I'm drawing things on Notability. It's fully scrollable, which means that each image doesn't have to be on a new page. I've messed with some apps before where every time you get done, you have to start a new page. And with my drawings that I do, I can just scroll up a little bit, scroll up. But another thing that's brilliant about Notability is I have students turn in work in Notability. I use iTunes U for my whole course. And they'll just submit a PDF or an image of what they do in Notability. And what's great about that is that I can have them draw anything. So Socrative or Poll Everywhere, you've got a few different question types. I can ask them to draw anything I want them to draw, and they can draw it just like they would on paper and turn it in, and we just don't use any paper. So that's one of the things that I love about having students use Notability. And then I use that anytime, if I'm in meetings, that's where I'm writing everything. You can import images into it. You can actually record on it, but it doesn't record like live drawing. Like it would record your voice on a page that has writing on it, but the page itself is static. So.
I have a question for you. Do you like using a stylus on your iPad, or do you prefer using your finger?
I do both.
Survey question.
He wants an iPad Pro.
Yeah, no, I've seen two of my students have iPad Pros. I'm like, those are beautiful. Like, it's amazing how. And I've got a friend that teaches in San Diego, and she said it's like writing on paper. So it's so different than writing with a stylus. So I haven't tried it yet. But yeah, she said she's an IT person, high school in San Diego, and she said, yeah, it's brilliant. I use both. I'll write with my finger a lot. But I do, if I'm teaching class, I always use a stylus. I actually have like 4 or 5. I'm like a stylus junkie. I'm a pen junkie already. You can only write with the right kind of pen. If it's a Bic, I would rather not write anything than use it. So I'm that way with my styluses. Like some of them are rubber and they grab, and I don't like that. Especially, I'm drawing a lot of structures. It's all organic chemistry, so it's a lot of drawing stuff. It's very different than handwriting. And so I've got a couple of styluses. If you're interested, I could talk about a couple of them or pull ones out that you can check out. That I think are really nice. There's one that has like this mesh metal tip that writes really well that I like. So.
Thanks, Lane. The last thing I want to talk about is something that maybe it's not so great for your class, but it's really good for your own personal productivity and backing up a device. And it's called If This Then That. So it lets you, it's on my cell phone, but basically what it does is it lets you create recipes. So if you install it, it'll connect to other apps on your phone, like for instance, Facebook, And you can tell it if any pictures of you get tagged on Facebook, you want them saved to Dropbox or Google Drive, and you want to back pictures of it. It'll save like your cell phone log into to Google Drive as well, so if you want to have that backed up. So you can create these various rules to do work for you. There's also an app called the Do app, and that lets you, so for instance, create a button on your phone to automatically create events on your calendar based on other activities that are taking place, or to, I personally like the If Then Then That app better. I don't think the Do one works very well, but I want to let you know about it. But things don't work very well, so if you choose Do Camera, Do Note or something, it's supposed to activate it, but at least on my Android device, it doesn't work well. Perhaps all of you all with iPhones, maybe it works better, but no, it doesn't work better. Don't use the Do app. So I always test it before we do one of these, and they still haven't improved it enough for me to think it's great. But the If Then Then That is really cool because it backs stuff up for you automatically, which I always find is a problem. I personally use the Amazon Prime to back up all my photos from everything. I like that better, but if you want, you can connect those to your social apps. So do you guys have questions about anything about these apps so far? One thing that we didn't really cover at the beginning that I wanted to just make clear, because at least with our faculty, it's a point of confusion, and that is web apps versus mobile apps. And it kind of blurs because like Socrative, or Socrative, or however you want to say it, it has all of them. So it is web-based. You can use it on your Android phone, you can use it on your iPad, you can use it on any web browser, on any machine. And so the lines get blurred. But we wanted to talk about it because we heard that you guys are going to get some really awesome tools because you're getting Google Apps for Education in the fall. That's what, I don't know.
Steve's working on it, I guess.
Oh, okay. So I was really excited for you all because it enables you to do a lot of really cool things without much effort. And we just wanted to talk about, I wanted to talk about how you can use them on a computer in the lab, or your students can use them on their mobile devices. It's easy to publish, like videos, like from all of these apps we were talking about, you can publish straight to YouTube. Really easy, without a lot of trouble. You don't have to export and import and move it off a device, you just gotta do it.
And you can create web pages.
You can.
And that's what we created this with. This is a Google site, and we just made this with the free little app, and it's in our, you can see up there, UIS.edu, so yours would maybe be kaskaskiacollege.edu, I think that's your, or is it?
Kaskaskia.edu.
Oh, kaskaskia.edu, thank you. So it's in there, and it's all within your universe, and by default, everything that you do in here is just shared inside your Kaskaskia piece. So only people here could see it with an account unless you choose to open it up more broadly, which I always do. But a lot of faculty get nervous about that, or they don't want their stuff out there quite as broadly, which is also understandable. And it lets you do that. So I'm really excited for you all.
And Google Apps are amazing. I have to say, I don't use that many of them that much, but I work with some different developers, and there was something about sharing and people, like two people using the same document at once. And I was trying to talk with my person about doing that for an electronic lab notebook that they're building. And he's like, oh yeah, the Google people, they know how to do this. So he said, if you do that on our things, you're gonna destroy documents. But Google Docs, and I watch my kids do this. My son's on a Google Doc, and he's working with a girl from his class, and she's typing while he's on the document. I'm like, that's brilliant. Because most other things, Word doesn't like that. Most other things don't like that. So they're really great for collaboration.
Puts up a cursor of different colors. You can type in the same document and edit, but you can always also do comments on the side panel that don't change the document at all, so you can have a conversation about an artifact too, which is really great for workshopping papers. Is anybody in English? It's really great for workshopping papers online.
With the Google Docs, instead of just saving and not eliminating like it holds.
Yes, it does do
And
versioning.
it ends up getting confusing with what's the most recent document or not.
There's one version that exists, but if for some reason one of your group mates deleted content, you can go back to see the past versions. So it just exists in one place on the Google universe, and then.
But it saves the history, so it's very much like a wiki. So you can do step backwards in time and review them. It is a wiki. Shouldn't say it's like a wiki. It is. All right. So next, if you guys aren't burned out, we're gonna look at recording devices and sharing devices. And we're gonna start out, did you want to talk about YouTube or you want me to?
Yeah, if you want to, I
Okay.
haven't really used it
I
myself.
love YouTube. So it made a good transition that we forgot to do the web apps at the beginning. YouTube is one of those apps that is from Google. It is free, and it's super easy to use. So whoever's got my iPad, on there is a YouTube app. And anything that you record on an iPad or your Android device or anything else or on your computer, if it's saved as a video, you can upload it to YouTube. You can use it to trim the ends of the videos. You can do cool things to enhance the video, add music to the background. But the very best thing about YouTube, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this,
What was the name of that again?
YouTube?
Oh, was it the Google?
Oh, Google Apps for Education.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So this is just the how-to that has everything you could ever want to know about closed caption on YouTube, and they're really specific, easy instructions. Our faculty have taught themselves how to use this. They don't even need us. I mean, Google's kind of like cutting into our job and our business a little, which is great because captioning is a big deal, and we're going to talk more about accessibility this afternoon. But YouTube, it's a really easy way if you don't have any other video editor, if you don't have Camtasia Studio, which has a really awesome captioning tool inside it. This is a way for you to move toward more accessible course content. So all you have to do for the auto caption to work, if you're lucky like me and I have a really boring, not interesting Midwestern accent, it's finally an advantage for us because our voices are going to work really well with the YouTube auto caption. And what it does is it processes it, it recognizes it, and it automatically creates captions for your videos.
And it's time synced to your video too.
And it's time synced to your video, which is the critical part. But the very best thing is, where are we at? The very best thing is that you can come in here and you can click on it. I'm going to log this person out so I can show you. Let's see. So we're just going to. All right, so my favorite thing is that when we go in here, we can that way you can see stuff about education, not like goofy little kids who won't say anything intelligible.
The only warning is that if you're in a very technical field, that doesn't usually work very well.
It's true.
I find nothing that will transcribe organic chemistry outside of a person that's studied organic chemistry. In fact, even if I gave most people a chance to humanly transcribe organic chemistry, they would get probably half the words wrong.
Oh, thanks. All right, well, maybe we'll use it. Anyway, so what it does that's really wonderful is that it lets you go in and you get to edit your captions. And so for people like Lane, it doesn't work so well because it's got really complex jargon-based language, but it does pretty well. So probably maybe, is the cap lock on? No, I just checked that. There we go. Yeah, sorry about that, y'all. So if we go in and we look at our videos in our video manager, let's see if I've got some of the people talking. So we've got. So when we get there and we get to settings, and this one is not intelligible, so this is a bummer video, but that's how we go first, but that's okay. There we go, that one probably is.
As we explore the alternative PowerPoint
So we've got closed captioning.
technologies this week, we find it helpful to look at them in 6 categories.
So that's pretty good. I
First,
never edited
PowerPoint
these.
Plus, which is basically PowerPoint plus some very important tools that make it fit our criteria.
So there's that, and then if we wanted to, we can go into our video manager for this video, and we will go down here, and we're gonna go to subtitles and closed captioning. And here we go, and so there are the automatic captions, and look at that, it's open right here. I can just click and type, so if it misspells a word or misunderstands me, if it doesn't understand something like Michelle's last name, whenever I have that on there, it spells Gribbons with an O-N-S, and so I have to go back in and fix that whenever I say her name in a video. I can go in and do that really easily, or I can export this, and I can use Word to do a find and replace, so if it misspelled the same thing consistently throughout it, I can download it, do a little find and replace, and upload it again to replace it really efficiently. And so this is all free. You don't have to pay anything for this. This is just Google's gift to the world to improve accessibility. And I really do feel like it's a gift because these captions, while they're good for people who are hard of hearing, who are English language learners, who are in a busy place, have you ever watched those little videos that come across Facebook all the time? Wouldn't it be nice if those were always captioned so you could watch them when people didn't know you weren't paying attention to them? I mean, who doesn't want that? You guys want that now. And so it's really just a wonderful tool that I hope we'll all be able to take a look at. And I'm going to stop talking because I spent way too long on that. I'm going to talk about the cube, which is really fun.
Yeah, so one of my colleagues actually has used the Polaroid Cube, and what he's done is he attached it to the side of his goggles. And so yeah, that's a little cube right there. So you just attach it to the side of his goggles to get a camera. So if you're trying to say, okay, here's how you work in the lab, and here's how you're going to set up this experiment. And we have a video, I think. Do we have the video?
Yes.
Of him with it on the side of his goggles and how he was explaining that experiment.
Welcome to GoggleCam, the internet's first-person video of how to do lab.
To prepare your sample for the atomic force microscope, we need to get the sample holder ready, and it starts out as a steel disc. We want a flat surface for it though, so we're going to grab a
So what's so nice about this is
cover
that
slip.
previously if you're going to do something like this, you'd say, okay, can we set it up with somebody from video services to come to my lab and bring a video camera like this, and they're going to talk to us about how we can do it. You know, they're going to get the right angles, make sure we need to bring in lights, make sure they got lighting. And he just put it on his goggles and he's just talking about what you do and showing what you do. And it's a whole lot easier. Just like the same thing I was explaining about with the iPad, right? How I can record a lecture on the iPad versus using 5 different tools. Oh, I forgot, I have a microphone, you've got all these extra tools. Here you can just do one single small little tool to be able to do that.
Right. It records in high def, it's less than $100, it bounces, so you don't have to worry about it breaking.
Very high.
And there are a lot of other versions. I mean, a lot of people are more familiar with GoPro, right? I mean, GoPro is the same, basically the same thing. It's just a small camera, something that you can record. There's a lot of different versions of it. I think the reason you guys like that, the Cube is just because it's so inexpensive.
It is.
And
How did he get that attached to his glasses?
He taped it.
tape, yeah. Duct tape does everything, right?
Yes. Taped it on. But there is, when you buy it, it comes with like a lanyard. It's also, if you notice, it's got a magnet on the bottom so you can like put it on a file cabinet. So there's all kinds of cool choices for it. And then it's got a cord that plugs into your computer to pull the video off. So it is pretty low tech, really, very inexpensive, and pretty indestructible because it is rubber and it does bounce.
And it lasts 90 minutes, so it's not, yeah,
It's pretty impressive battery life and capacity.
right. So you put a micro SD card in it, and then whatever the capacity of that micro SD card is how long it can
How does it
work.
transfer? USB?
Yes. So I'll tell you, this workshop is a 4-hour workshop, and we're doing it in 2. So if you feel like we're going a little fast, we're trying to show as many cool things as possible, But all of these things are going to be on the website going forward, so you'll be able to do that. But so I don't want people not to ask questions, but we will try to get through as much as we can in the last 35 or 40 minutes here.
So the next tool we're going to talk about is a theta, and it's by Rico, and they just came out with a new version, so apparently it's supposed to be even better. But what this does is you hold it up and you press the record button after you turn it on, and it'll record 360 degrees around it. You can see it's got a little bubble fisheye camera on each side, and it records this, and you plug it into your computer, and you can upload it to social media sites and online, and it creates a stitched together panable image. So you can see how Michelle is able to scroll up. This is in the lobby of our Sangamon Auditorium, and so you can scroll around and move, and so what we envision using it for tours of spaces, so on campus, so you could use it to create a virtual tour. I think it would also be interesting for real estate agents, not related to this at all, but you might have students who are doing that, and I think it would be really useful. For agricultural purposes, a lab tour, looking at demos, and so this is just our pretty little campus.
One way that we've used something like this, I don't know if we did the 3D, but that I could envision us doing is sometimes we'll do like lab safety. So you can do that with a picture of the lab with several things wrong in there, and ask the students, okay, search around the lab and try and find what's wrong. Where they've got the the hamburger sitting on the corner, or or more likely a soda or a coffee or something like that.
What I really love about this is it's not distorted at all. It doesn't look like a crazy wide angle where things start getting distorted on the edges. It just looks like a good picture. So, can you guys think of a way that you could use this in any of your fields that it would be useful or helpful?
Back here.
Yeah.
I was just thinking use student notifications.
Oh, yeah.
That would be really great for that. That's a great idea. So these are, the brand new model is at $350 now, so I'm guessing you could find one of these older models for quite a bit less if you went looking right now. And it's supposed to be able to take video, the new model. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, here's the video we did with it.
Oh, there it goes.
So the viewer can scroll around the video the same way. The noise you hear is the drone flying.
So you can move around and watch the video from any point, and it makes me feel kind of seasick.
So here's the drone. We'll we'll pass it around and we'll fly it.
Yeah, we did that inside once.
Yes.
Only once.
Yeah, so we've used the drone for multiple things on campus. Lane's going to share a few examples that he's found.
Yeah, do you have the one image? Yeah, so this is actually a friend of mine at Southwind Park has created this sundial clock, and it's this beautiful sundial. And what he found was they were trying to get images of it, but they could only get about 20 feet high. They could never get a real image where you could see, like, you can't read all this. Here's the winter solstice, here's summer solstice, and it coming out from the center of the clock here. And so you could see where the sun hits at different points, but he could never get a real image like this until they got a drone, and they flew their drone up, and now you can get the whole thing, and you can see here's how the whole thing works together. This is actually going to be a placard that's going to go up, like a couple feet by a couple feet or whatever, that's going to be out here so that people can look at to see how the whole system works together. But yeah, he said that we were on the tallest ladders we could find, and we still couldn't get an image that would work well. And that was a great thing for drones. Agricultural is a great use for drones. Images, campus images are a great use for drones. We've used a drone image in the center of like handouts, booklets that we make that show our campus off. So.
There's another great idea. Dr. Yoder, whose little show me you heard a little bit of earlier, thought it could be really interesting for studying crowds. If you could get one that was really quiet and the behavior of crowds.
Yes.
Gosh, that'd be crazy.
Well, then you've got the legal flying issues. That's the hard thing with drones
Right.
now. Is there's a lot of issues with flying
And
them.
a lot of regulation.
And registering them, and we've got all that on there if you guys have one or you're interested in getting one, so you can research that.
All right, our next product is the swivel, and this is one that our faculty members get really excited about. It's just this little device down here, and you can use any smartphone or tablet that you have, and you put it into here. They have different type of connectors that fit the width of your device. But it allows you to record yourself. So another example of recording, but what's brilliant about this is it follows the lanyard wherever the lanyard goes. So right now, assuming it's working. So as I walk around, it's going to follow me. So it's a great way to capture your lecture if you want to be able to provide it to students online if they happen to miss class or want to revisit. Student reflections, if you have them doing speeches or teaching demos, allowing them to be recorded and then seeing themselves. And we can just go ahead and pass the lanyard around and we'll see how well it follows this. It goes 360 degrees. I think it's like 24 degrees vertically. I have seen it once where somebody dropped the lanyard and it went on the ground, so please don't drop the lanyard. The thing is, if you move too fast, though, it kind of loses track of you, but otherwise, it does a really decent job in capturing. So guest lecturers, if you have them come, but I think some of those teaching reflections and student speech reflections is a great tool, and again, you don't need anyone else to do this for you. Just as long as you have this device. I think the device is about $400. We have one on campus that we allow faculty members to use. But it is great, and like I said, they use their own device. If you do PowerPoint, it actually can sync your PowerPoint with your video too, so if you want that capability of seeing you as well as whatever you're presenting, it will do that. We'll allow you to experiment with this as well if you want to.
I'm trying to decide whether or not to try to attach the motion up in here.
Maybe just let them play with it.
Yeah, everybody can just come up, because we're nearly at that, you know. Yeah. So the next tool we want to talk about is sort of a virtual reality tool, and it lets you, and we have it set up here, we'll get it all loaded, but I'm going to show a video first, and it's called Leap Motion, and it lets you use your hands as the input for the computer, so that it becomes the mouse. So we're gonna what these people are doing, they're waving their hands above this little tiny brick. And this is the input. It identifies your hands, and moving it around you can see how it interprets it. And it's all based on this little device. I think it's $99? $89 now. And so it's pretty darn cool.
So a couple of years ago, we did this presentation in Florida for a group of faculty, and we asked faculty to test it at different tables. And what we found was that the faculty who were engaged in architecture and in agriculture were actually fighting over it because they had figured out almost before they got up and played with it on how they were going to incorporate that into what they had their students doing. So, but it does have a lot, you saw some games there, but there are actually a lot of learning activities that you could do using Leap Motion when you're not constrained to a mouse. So this technology has continued to evolve and change, and I think in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see some really fabulous input devices come out. But Leap Motion is a really affordable way to just get into using this with your students very quickly.
And there's several free apps that are available as well. We just pulled up the App Store, but the Form and Function one is a great one where you can manipulate a heart and rotate it and look at the different components of the heart. There's frog dissection,
3D geometry to help them visualize molecules. There's the molecules one. There a lot of them where you can walk, there's one where you can walk through a gallery. And then the New York Times for Leap Motion lets you go through the news, manipulating the newspaper. It's kind of neat. So there are lots of them. So if you guys want, you can come up here. Right now we have a game up. You just hold your hands above this, and you can see if I can pick it up. I need to be in front of it, then you can't see. So you can pick things up. I'm really bad at this lane. But you can see your hands moving around. You can pick up items, and then you can drop them and build little robots that'll walk around. So if you want to play with that, you're welcome to. The next tool is another sort of virtual reality device, and it's called a Google Cardboard. How much are these, Michelle?
$12.
$12.
It's literally cardboard.
It really is literally cardboard. Right now, it's set up to go through something called the Bird Room at a palace in India, I think. And you get to, it won't work with my glasses because they're too big, but it makes a little stereoscopic tour. So you can look around, you look up and you see the ceiling, you look down, you see the floor, and it's on a 10-minute timer. So you guys can pass
Does
that.
anybody remember a Viewmaster?
Yes.
Think Viewmaster on steroids. But if you are sensitive to movement, don't look
it can
inside.
make you sick.
It can make you seasick. So
So here.
You could pick anywhere in the world that you want to go. Where would you want to go?
I would like to go to the new Thailand,
Ancient Greece. India to Nigeria, my homeland.
one or maybe all of the 7 wonders of the world. When you explore different places, you have the chance to actually learn something new.
You want to be able to show the kids that there's something outside of your community that you could go to and learn from, and that there's other places you can visit.
All right, so let's do our objective and we'll talk about the lesson for today.
We're going to take a field trip to Verona, Italy to see the place where Romeo and Juliet lived.
I'm going to take you on this field trip under the water.
Okay, you guys ready? Pick up your devices
And look in your cardboard.
What is that?
I see a shark.
It would allowed us to go somewhere we wouldn't normally be able to go.
Are we in China?
This is the Great Wall of China.
We got to see the place itself so we could actually understand what she was talking about.
How long would it take to walk the length of the Great Wall of China?
So much more enriching than just showing them a picture or just having them read about it.
This device can actually make us go to places that we've never been before.
It brings the lesson to you. You have to see it for yourself to believe it.
There's so much other places to see, so you know that it's never going to end.
So the cool thing about Google Cardboard is it's really cheap. It'll work with video iPods. It'll work with Android phones. It'll work with iOS phones. And it's a free app that you download. You just pair it to your little $12 device. And then you can install other apps that are free, or the cardboard camera, which lets you record something and to load it in there for your students to view on a device. So it's really flexible and it's pretty neat as long as you don't get motion sickness.
yes.
Or walk into things. We've seen that when we do demos.
Yes.
There's some people who will stand up and then we'll just start walking as they're looking at the Eiffel Tower and want them to walk.
So if
Like
you,
I did in Second Life.
yeah. If you notice the picture down here right here, Ray has on a plastic version of this. And did we bring that?
No.
Okay, so we have a plastic version that works that way as well. The plastic version is about $30, but if the cardboards do wear out after they've been handled for a while, so if you had a use for this for a group of students to utilize, you'd probably want to look at some of those. They won't work over glasses, so that is an issue. So there are some drawbacks, but when you utilize them for a particular lesson to show something specific, it can be very impactful. We're going to wearables?
Yeah.
All right. So wearables are kind of the next thing. All of the devices that we wear. Do any of you own something that you would consider a wearable device? I think Lane does. Lane, would you like to share?
Yeah, so I have an Apple Watch, and actually I got the Apple Watch with the intention of how can I use this in teaching? I have colleagues that say that they found ways to use Apple Watch in teaching. One of the things that you can do with it that you could use in teaching, I guess, is you can advance your PowerPoint or Keynote slides with it. But I don't find it particularly useful because what you get is you get a front arrow and a backward arrow. I use my iPad actually, and so whenever I'm presenting, usually if I'm doing like a keynote address, I'll walk around with that, and not only can I see that, I can use a laser pointer on my iPad. I can see the next slide coming up if I want. I can see notes if I've got them on there. It's so much more useful than just having a front arrow and a back arrow. But things I do use it all the time. Things I use it for, I get my email messages on there. I get text messages on there. I can say, Siri, call home. And she'll call my wife, and I can say, hey, I'm on my way, and I can actually drive hands-free like I should be and not be holding my phone. The weather app I use all the time, Maps, if you're walking around somewhere and not driving, you can use the Maps app. So those are some of the things I use. Plus the other thing that's really great about it is if any of you guys have Fitbit or other things too, is it also is monitoring your exercise. And my son was laughing the other day as he was sitting next to me, and he said, your watch just told you to stand up. So yes, it does that every hour. It says stand up, time to stand up. So those are the things that I think are really valuable about it. Again, haven't found a really good teaching way. I mean, I guess if you're doing some of that back channel stuff or you're allowing your students to text you, then they might be able to text to that, and you can get that way. So yeah.
I'm very simplistic, and I'm not as sharp with a lot of this. But how do you get your iPad with the LCD if you're walking around?
How do I get the iPad with LCD? Yeah, so our rooms all have Air Server on the computer that's in the room.
Okay.
And so Air Server is just a wireless way that the iPad communicates to the computer.
So
the other way to do it is with Apple TVs.
Right. Yeah. Do you have either of those things?
You have Apple TV?
Apple TV, that's
You can-
watching our servers.
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Apple TVs really are designed as a home device. I
Right.
mean, there are some schools that use them.
We did test it, we tried it, and because of our security system, which refreshes the IP address on random ways, we can't use them either, but we can use the Air Server, so you might request the Air Server. The Air Server works beautifully, and
And the computer can be any computer, it doesn't have to be.
doesn't have to be anything. Yeah, it can be anything, it can be old, and it still works. So it does that's the beauty of Air Servers, and then you can use it with any of your mobile devices, your phone, your iPad.
And it's great for meeting collaborations too. You have meetings and you can share notes.
Right. So, the other thing though about Apple Watches that we probably should tell you about is Michelle and I tested them, and Michelle's office is 3 down from me, 3 or 4 down from me, and so we wanted to see how easy it was to cheat with them. And so what we found out was it took us 10 minutes to figure out a code, and she could send me answers, and I received them on my watch.
Yeah. So the device has a little pulse, so I can click on it like on my face, and it'll pulse on her wrist.
Yeah.
So there's no audible sound. She can just feel the pulse. And so it's really easy for students to come up with ways to cheat in the classroom if they have these type of devices. If they had some especially if you're doing the same exam for all of your students, which of course we all know you should mix it up or at least randomize the questions. But I could sit here and click once for A, twice for B, do that type of code with Vicki, and she can sit there and feel the pulse, not even have to physically react to it, she can just feel it on her wrist.
Yeah. So and we found out that the range is pretty long. So they could be somewhere in the hallway, somebody else is inside taking a test, and they could be sharing the answers. So, and there are other codes that you can use, and certainly if they learned the old SOS code, they could really get it down quick. But there are things to consider with wearables that you'll want to think about. The new thing that's out, do we have the Ring?
I think so.
On there, Ringly. So Ringly is there's a new ring that's also a wearable. That's the same type of thing. It looks like a ring that you wear on your hand, and it is a device, and you can actually communicate with other people. So be aware that more and more of these things are coming out, And
I think we even have the issues, now that you're giving a 3-hour final exam, and students, quite often, I mean, myself included, need to use the restroom sometime in that 3
Right.
hours. Well, the best that we feel like we can do now is say, when you leave, you need to set your phone on the desk, but who knows that they don't have somebody else's phone in their pocket too? I mean, it's a tough thing nowadays, Before, we were always afraid that they might stow a book in the bathroom or something like that, hide it somewhere that they could go in. I mean, now, that's, I don't know that there is a better way to deal with that.
yeah.
What is the best electronic device you found to monitor or to minimize cheating online?
Gosh, it's really difficult for these wearable pieces. Having the policy in place that, cell phones either go under the desk or, that you don't have wearable jewelry on is really an important consideration now. But as far as online cheating, we're going to talk about that this afternoon a little bit, but we use a service through Examity, and we have found that to be far and away the best deterrent as well as the best way to catch it. And so Michelle does a lot of work with our Examity folks and is actually doing some research in this area, so I'll let her go into that this afternoon. But definitely it's something that we have to be concerned about and how we address it. And of course, part of it goes back to how we assess, right? So if we assess using multiple choice tests, we can be pretty much assured that it's going to be easy to cheat. But if we assess using other models, other types of assessment, then we can start to eliminate some of that, both the opportunity to cheat as well as fueling the I don't know, it's kind of like kids would prefer to put all their energy to innovate in how to cheat rather than innovate in how to study. So, those types of things.
Well, so some of the video stuff that I do, one of the things that there was a paper that came out a year or so ago at one of the Virginia schools, I don't remember, the University of Virginia or another one, and what they were experimenting with were video lab reports. The students would submit a video lab report, and they said one of the advantages of this is you can't copy. Right? I mean, if you're, and that's one of the things I like about videos. If you're creating a video thing and you've got your voice and your all your materials together, you can't just copy somebody else's. So you have to create your own. So I've actually been having my students in my lab create videos too, explaining spectroscopy, other things. I don't know if there's any science people here or not. And it's been wonderful. Plus, it's a great way. What I love to use videos for is that I don't have time in my class to have everybody do a presentation. If I had everybody do a presentation in my class in the fall, I got 60 students, there's 2 weeks or 3 weeks of class time that I just have to give up. Here, they can do these videos outside of class, and now I didn't use any class time for it, and they still get the learning thing of how do I explain this to other people.
So how do you grade all those?
How do I grade all of them? Well, it depends on what I do. So I made a really bad mistake this last fall, and I thought, wow, if they did one video for every chapter in organic chemistry, they would really learn a lot. And we have 60 students and 13 chapters. I did not grade all those. It was like 900 videos they made. But what I did do is I picked like randomly, one of every 4 of yours is going to be graded or something like that. But actually, one of the things I keep trying to do is I keep trying to shorten their videos. Or if I have to do, like in my online class, they do a group video. So I have 25 students in my online class. Now I've got 8 5 to 10 minute videos to grade. So that's not so bad. In my lecture class, everyone's doing their own, but I'm trying to get them down to like 1 to 2 minute videos where it's just like explaining one problem. And actually I'm crowdsourcing it to get my own tools. My students keep asking me for more problems to do. So now, towards the end of the year, I started saying, okay, so what your video is going to be is just to solve a problem. Give me a PDF of the problem, and your video is a solution, and then next year, I'll post those as problems that they can do with video solutions. And I didn't have to record 30 new videos and problems. So.
All right, we are into, are we finished with, okay, I thought so. We're into the last 10 minutes of this presentation, so we'd like to have your questions, your thoughts, your feedback. What types of technology did we not cover that you'd hope that we would? What questions do you have about a problem that you have in your discipline or in your classroom that you'd like to have us help you think about a technology solution for?
This is brilliant. As an ed teacher for 10 years, it's exciting to know adult education is starting to reflect practices we do in the lower grades. It's so true.
Yes.
I have a question about notability, so you were talking about that, how you use that during class even. Is there something that you can push to a student's iPad, or is it just they see it on the overhead?
There are things that you can push, trying to think what it is, not
Maybe
through
you
that,
can, like,
show me,
save
I
it,
think.
post it later.
Yeah, so what I do is I'll draw something, I'll draw it on my iPad, and part of it to me is, for my course especially, it's really important that they're drawing. Like, I've never used PowerPoint, because they need to physically draw this stuff. That's the part of the course is practicing, learning how to draw all these things and draw the process of how it works. So I've never given them things like PowerPoint. So I have experimented with a specific app, ChemDraw, that I can use a thing called Click to Share and Click them things. But usually I'll just draw it and ask them to draw the same thing.
And is that something you could save that then, for say you have a student miss class?
Yes, anything that you do in Notability, well, one, it's saved on your iPad, but also there's well, I don't know about Windows. On Mac, there's a Notability app that's $5 on Mac, where you can upload and edit and mess with all of your Notability files as well.
So something you could save later though?
Yeah, it's always saved. Anytime you're writing, like, if you look through my iPad now, you have 2 years of chemistry lectures and things like that,
Okay, so
meetings.
it's saved. Okay, that's what I wasn't sure.
And you can categorize it, you can put them in different folders so that you can have, like I've got my meetings app, my colors app, or folder, and all my different types of things that I do.
So one of our colleagues he prefers Android and Windows to Mac and iOS, and he does that same thing using OneNote. So he really likes OneNote. Do you all use that? So you should have access to OneNote with your Microsoft license. And so OneNote is similar, but it is a full Windows component. And that's my extent of my knowledge on Android right there. So, but John has lots and lots of information. So if you do have information that you'd like on Android devices, he wasn't able to come with us today, but we'll be glad to connect anybody to him. He's also pretty good with Google Apps. So if you have a Google App question, any other questions or comments, thoughts? Well, how many? Who do we have here to?
We've had several people active on the back line, and they're going to get a Google Cardboard to take home with them.
Wow.
So Rebecca, we'll just go down the list from the top. Rebecca.
Oh, right here.
All right. And who's next? Let's see. Amber. All right.